Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Travel with Rick Steves Europe. I am your moderator, Emily Burks, and tonight we are exploring Crete, the largest of the Greek islands, with tour guide Apostolos Douras. On that note, I think we can get this show started. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming our Greek guide extraordinaire, Apostolos Douras, back to Monday Night Travel. Hey there, Apostolos.
Good morning, Kalimera from Greece. It's a pleasure to be back. All the best for the new season of Monday Night Travel. And I would like to say a warm welcome to our guests, our viewers.
Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome, Apostolos. And you mentioned that you are in Greece and it's morning. Can you tell us where you are beaming in from this evening?
Yes, it is 4 o'clock in the morning. So, I woke up early. I had my double Greek coffee. I'm ready to present wonderful Crete. And I am in Epirus, in the northwest of Greece, in the country house. I'm in the middle of the forest, just by the mountains. There's snow in the mountains. It's beautiful. It's a very quiet night. So I'm very happy to be up here and be connected with you.
Wonderful. And you just mentioned that you're in Epirus, which is actually a destination that you covered for us on Monday Night Travel back in 2024. And so you can find a link to that in the chat as well, viewers, because it was an excellent presentation. But Apostolos, some of our viewers may recognize you from your appearances on Monday Night Travel, and they also might recognize you if they have taken a Rick Steves Athens and the Heart of Greece tour, because you are one of our wonderful guides. And so some of you may have had the good fortune of exploring Greece with Apostolos, but when Apostolos isn't leading Rick Steves tours, he is also leading his own tours in Crete. Can you tell us a little bit about how you fell in love with this island and why you decided to start a multi-day tour of Crete?
Of course, of course. I used to go to Crete on vacation on holidays. I was always a guest at a friend's house in the lovely town of Rethymno. And my friends always would show me all these like hidden gems and beautiful corners of Crete. So I started falling in love with the island, exploring by myself the different counties. I made new friends. I connected with the locals. And one day I realized all this knowledge and all this, how can I say, enthusiasm I have about Crete, I should share it with my own travelers. So this is how I started organizing tours in Crete. And I feel grateful about that.
Wonderful. Well, I am excited to dive into this island that you love so much. But I also want to mention that you can find more information about Apostolos's tours in the chat widget. We've shared a link as well as his email address. But please note that Apostolos only offers multi-day tours of Crete. And if you're looking for just general travel information, if you're planning an independent trip, then we would highly recommend the official tourism website, Incredible Crete, which you can find in the chat as well. Well, on that note, Apostolos, I think we should begin our virtual tour. What do you say?
I'm ready. Looking forward to that. Let's get ready for
Yeah.
Crete. Okay, here we are. So what I did, I put this map of Europe to orientate, to say exactly where Crete is situated in this world. So you can see, of course, Western Europe, and you can see the Middle East, and you can see Africa, and you can see Greece. And I highlighted Crete with a green color. As you can see, Crete is on the most southern point of Greece, because you can see the Greek peninsula. As Greece, of course, it is situated on the Eastern Mediterranean. And it's very interesting where geographically Crete is situated. It's the largest island of Greece, and it's the fifth largest island at the Mediterranean. Also, it is about 3,000, it's about 3,200 square miles. And you can see that it's close to Africa as well. So The weather is milder than the rest of Greece. And southern of Crete, you have what we call the Libyan Sea. It's called the Libyan Sea because further south, you have the country of Libya, and further to the east, you have the country of Egypt. And north of Crete, you have the Cretan Sea, the Aegean Sea with the Greek islands and Greece. So the geographic position of Crete, as you can imagine, in the middle of the Mediterranean, has been affected a lot by so many civilizations that they were there, but also connected to a lot of cultures around the Mediterranean. And yes, we continue, and you can see now map of Greece, and you can see Crete, and you can see on the north of Crete we have the Cretan Sea, and the closest island is Santorini, the island of Santorini, north, or possibly our viewers have heard of it or they've been to Santorini, and you can see the Greek islands and the Greek peninsula, and of course south of Crete, as we said, is the Libyan Sea, and you have northern Africa, and it's quite interesting because you can see here what I've done. You have the island of Crete and it is separated in four different counties. So the counties we have of Chania, Rethymno, Iraklio, and Lassithi, and each one of these counties, they have, their main cities, the main towns, like Iraklio has the capital, Iraklio, Rethymno, Rethymno, Chania, Chania, and all these towns, and Lassithi has Agios Nikolaos, all these towns are situated on the northern coast of Crete. So this is quite interesting just to get a little bit information of the island.
Okay, Apostolos, thank you so much for that orientation. And before we get any further into the presentation, I just want to take a moment to share some quick nuts and bolts travel information with our viewers. And so, for starters, I was wondering if you could tell us what the best time of year to visit Crete is.
I think the best time of the year is early spring or late fall, April till middle of May, the middle of September till end of October, because in the summer it can be very hot. I mean, it's great to go to the beach. You can do that even earlier. But if you want to go and visit the archaeological site and you're exposed under the sun, it's better, I think, to go at a time that is less crowded and you have great temperature, like from 60 to 73. It's like ideal temperature to be in Crete and enjoy the outdoors. So I would say the best time would be beginning of spring and fall. But of course, people they can travel all year round because generally it has mild weather.
And I think you mentioned to me earlier that you can even ski in Crete in the winter because they're it's so mountainous.
Yes, not so much, skiing, but because the mountains, they're like 7,000, 8,000 feet high. Like this time of the year, for example, they have snow. And I will
Hmm.
talk about that because Greece is a mountainous country, and you can see a great combination of mountains with the coastline in Crete, which is wonderful. So now, yes, there is snow up in the mountains, 8,000 feet in Crete, if you want to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe, but it's true, folks. Okay, and how long do you think travelers should plan to spend on Crete to really see the island?
Well, it depends how long you would like, how many sites you would like to visit, because as we said, there are four counties in Crete. It's a large island, so the distances are long, there are winding roads. I would say 7 to 10 days, like minimum. Because if you want to see like a couple of counties, possibly you need like 7 days. But if you want to see the whole island, you will need at least 10 days because it's a big island. There's so many wonderful secrets to discover in Crete and many places to visit. So the more, the merrier, I would say.
Perfect. And I think people will find that there are no shortage of things to see and do in Crete. So 10 days on Crete sounds lovely. And, travelers, how would you recommend that they plan to get around? Is there any public transit available that they could take advantage of, or would you suggest car rentals for most people?
I think you can do both. Obviously, when you're like in a big island, it's better to have a car because with a car you have access to everything. So I definitely recommend renting a car. But if you don't want to use a car, there is some public transportation. There's definitely a lot of buses that they connect the main towns, as we said, of the counties and smaller towns. It will be more difficult to be connected through like smaller villages. So if I had to choose, I would rent a car. But even if you don't rent a car, combining maybe local excursions with local travels and bus towns, I think you can do it.
Wonderful. And we have listed two sites that Apostolos recommends booking in advance there, the Knossos Palace and the Archaeological Museum. And Ben has also included in the chat a link to the Ministry of Culture website where you can book tickets. So you can take note of that. And also, the question of do you need cash? I know we're going to talk about some more rural places that people could visit. And so you would suggest probably having like at least a little bit of cash on hand just in case.
Yeah, I agree. A little cash always helps. Of course, in all
Mhm.
places they accept credit cards and debit cards like restaurants and hotels and businesses. But if you go, let's say, to an isolated village and you're either and you're in a coffee place and you want to be having a Greek coffee, it's nice to have some cash because
Hmm.
maybe it's not so easy to use cards. I would say cash always helps to have a little cash with you when you travel in Crete.
It doesn't hurt for sure. And finally, um, we are unfortunately all very addicted to our cell phones these days. And so, um, should people prepare to be able to use their phones? Is there Wi-Fi generally available at hotels, restaurants, museums? What is that like? Do you have any tips around staying connected?
Yeah, there's Wi-Fi everywhere. Wherever you go, you can ask for the Wi-Fi password. You can, like in a store, in a restaurant, in taverna, always they do. So it's very easy to have access to free internet, Wi-Fi, hotels, everything. Now it's up to the traveler. Sometimes the travelers they want to have a data plan. I would say that the access to a cell phone, it's easy all over Crete, but in some places they're more like isolated. Maybe you don't have the greatest reception. So get ready
Mhm.
for that sometimes.
Mhm.
But generally, it's so easy to get internet, very easy Wi-Fi in Crete.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Apostolos. And I think up next you had some pictures from your personal travels in Crete to share with us.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you, Emily. So what I would like to just show you, talk a little bit, the pictures you're gonna see from now on. They're pictures I've taken when I'm on tour and I'm on the bus, driving in the car. So it's quite interesting because I can show you a little bit of the morphology, the geography of the place, and what is important, what we say about Crete. Crete is like a micrography, like a micrograph of a continent. Like it has pretty much everything. So it has the high mountains, as I said, of altitude, 7,000, 8,000 feet high from the east to the west. It has these amazing fertile valleys and plains that because of the mild weather, you can cultivate pretty much all fruit and vegetables. You have the wonderful olive groves and vineyards. You can have rocky areas, like mostly in southern Crete, where you have more dry and more warm weather. And
Oh, Apostolos, you'll need to. There you go.
okay,
Yeah.
and also it has, the valleys has small rivers, it has some lakes, and it has gorges and ravines, which is amazing because of these mountains. They create these gorges and ravines that you can go hiking. It's a beautiful setting. And of course, what can I say about the beach? The water, the coastline, which is amazing. All these pictures I've taken while I'm traveling, and I know you can see the turquoise of the water, but this is the real, this is not filter, this is the real water of Crete, and this is what makes it unique. So, what is amazing about Crete that we see all this great variety, this diversity, ecological diversity and geological diversity in the beautiful water of Crete, is because it was a hub. The geographical position of the island has really created some of the greatest civilizations, oldest European civilizations in Europe. And we can start, of course, there's a long history of who was in Crete and who stayed in Crete. But we can go at least 3,000 years BC. So we have the Minoans, we have the ancient Greek cities, the Hellenistic times, we have the Romans, we have the Byzantines, we have the Arabs, we have the Venetians and the Franks, and the Ottomans. So it has such a rich history. So we can start a little bit with some of the main sites, and we go, of course, to the Minoan civilization that all of us have heard about. Minoan civilization, the name of this civilization, it goes back at least 3,000 years BC. Imagine, let's pause for a moment and think it's about 4,000 to 5,000 years before us, how the first advanced European civilization started there and how much it has contributed, of course, to the development of humanity, human civilization. So the Minoans, the name was taken because was given by the archaeologists because of King Minos, the mythical king of um, of the Minoans, Minos, and of course we've heard about the legend, the myth of the Minotaur. Minotaur means the bull of Minos, and the maze and the labyrinth that existed in what we see in the picture in the palace of Knossos. So there are six palaces of the Minoans because the Minoans, they developed this amazing civilization in the years about 3000 to 1100 BC. And there were six palaces scattered on the island because they were all over the island. But the main complex, the main palace of the Minoans was the palace of Knossos, which is a few miles away from the city Iraklio in northern Crete. And this is a beautiful palace you can visit. It is perfect to go and see that palace or early in the morning or later before closing times to avoid, the cruise ships and a lot of people. So I always recommend do it very early or later during the day. And what is unique about the Minoan civilization is although they were surrounded by sea, were on an island in Crete, they saw the sea as a sea route to be connected to other cultures. So they were involved in trade, they were fantastic merchants, and they traded goods, olive oil, and wine, and pottery, and they traveled to Mesopotamia, they traveled to Syria, what today is Lebanon, all this area, the Middle East, to Anatolia, to Asia Minor, to Egypt. So they created trade relations with all these great civilizations that we all know, and that makes this civilization unique. And of course, it's always a must when you visit the main palace of Knossos to go and visit the Archaeological Museum of Iraklio. So you can do that both possibly in one day. And Iraklio Museum is one of the most beautiful museums in Europe. It has all these treasures, artifacts of the Minoan civilization that we said from 3000 to 1100, and not only, it goes back to Neolithic times, 6000 BC, up to the Roman times. So it's one of the most amazing museums you should visit. And here I would like to show you some of the items that you can see in most of the museums of Crete. There's not only the Archaeological Museum of Iraklio, there's the Archaeological Museum as well of Chania, of the other major towns. So both of them are a must to visit. And here, for example, we can see a sarcophagus of the Minoans. Look at the painting and all these natural patterns. It's beautiful. And we can see here a reconstructed fresco of these blue ladies, which is so beautiful, that shows the women of Knossos and the women of the Minoans. And you can see beautiful dolphins, and you can see these little fish, different colors, pink and yellow and blue, amazing frescoes, amazing wall paintings. And here, there are three of the treasures of the Archaeological Museum. You can stay there for hours in that museum. And I just want just to explain very briefly. You have, first of all, the one to the left. It's the disc of Festos. It's one of these enigmatic, mysterious objects because you have these 241 signs, like in a circle, in a spiral way, which it was very hard to translate. But archaeologists, they try, to find a solution to the disc of Festos. Festos was another, we'll talk about that later, another beautiful site, another palace of the Minoans. It was in southern Crete. So they found this mystery disc. And the archaeologists say because of these signals, these symbols, they're repeated, possibly it's a hymn, it's a poem because it's repetitive, it is a spell. We don't know. So this is one of the mysteries of the museum and the treasures. And of course, the lady in the middle, which is beautiful. You can see the bare-breasted woman, and it's quite interesting because it is related, obviously, to fertility. And there is this woman possibly is a priestess or is a goddess, so has a prominent position, and she holds the two snakes, that the two snakes symbolize the connection to the underworld. And there's like a cat or a panther on her head. So this is one of the beautiful small miniature statues that you're going to see at the museum.
Apostolos, if I can interrupt, I actually had a question about all of these beautiful goddesses and women that are represented in Minoan society. And I know I did a little homework before this, and I learned that historians can tell that the Minoans had a predominantly matriarchal religion. And I was wondering if you know what that indicates for women in real society in real life and what their lives was like and what their role was.
Well, I think, Emily, this is very interesting. Of course, because we're talking about 1,100, 2,000 year BC, we don't have so much written information because we're talking about prehistory, but I can talk about indications, if not, clear evidence. But it seems from the artifacts we have, from the wall paintings, the frescoes, the statues, women are depicted a lot. So it seems they had a prominent position in the society. That's a huge thing. That's very innovative for such a far away, such an old civilization, because usually women in ancient cultures they had more, how can I say, a more domestic reproductive role, but that doesn't happen here because it seems women they participate in social, in cultural and economic life. They have found these fantastic paintings in Egypt where it shows merchants, men, but also women trading goods with the Egyptians. So it seems that's a wonderful thing. If you think that's how many thousands years ago, we're talking about the first advanced European civilization and how today, at least in the Western world, how things have changed with the position of women and equality in society. So I think this is fascinating that we can notice that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like they got it right at first and then
No,
things went wrong, but we're getting back
it's
there. So thank you.
yeah, definitely. And if you think it was 4,000 years ago, we're talking about different standards, different mindset of the people. This is amazing. And you can see, you can admire the feminine figures a lot in
Hmm.
Minoan art. And also you can see the bull, the bull, the minotaur, the maze, the labyrinth. And the bull, obviously, it's another symbol of like power and fertility. So it is a pattern, the bull that we see a lot in the Minoan culture. And this is very interesting. This is a painting, like say, a wall painting, that it shows the bull leaping, which is an acrobatic, like leaping acrobatic sport that they used to have. So this is amazing. Again, we can see the symbol of bulls that it is repeated. It's the sacred animal of the Minoans. And again, you can see a lot of the secret creatures. And again, the bulls. The museum, the Heraclio Museum, it's definitely a must that you can see all these patterns. And this is the Palace of Festos that I was telling you. It's the second most important palace of the Minoans. It is in southern Crete because Knossos is in the northern part of Crete in the county of Iraklio. And it's a beautiful, you can see the ruins of the palace, and it's like on the top of the hill that you have the most amazing views on one of the most fertile valleys of Crete, where they cultivate fruit and vegetables. It's a lovely place to be. And definitely I recommend if you have to choose another palace, because there are like 6 palaces on the island of Crete, I would say the Palace of Festos is a must because it's in a beautiful natural setting. And then I would just like to give like a little bit more recommendation because, after the Minoan civilization, where the development of ancient Greek cities, it's the classical times, it's the Hellenistic times, and there's this ancient Greek city called Gortina that was developed. And later, when the Romans came to Crete, because of course the Romans came and they took over Crete, and Gortina became the capital, the Roman capital of the Roman province in Crete. So at that time, the time of the Romans, it was a cosmopolitan city. But also, it's interesting to go and see this place that was the Roman capital for another reason. Before that, when it was just one of the most important ancient Greek cities, they have found there something unique that we can see on the left-hand side of our screen. It's the first law codes of Europe and of ancient Greece. Can you imagine? Everything printed, different laws about everyday life. It is coding of laws, some of the first laws that they go back to about 5th century BC. So the first sign, some of the signs of a written law. And as we're talking about the Romans, there are a lot of Roman sites also, if you're like fan of Roman history. And these are like some Roman sisters that you see in another beautiful ancient Greek city, Aptera, in Chania, that I definitely recommend. It's a beautiful archaeological site. And a part of it has the Roman cisterns. So you can see not only Roman cisterns, you can see beautiful aqueducts as well, Roman aqueducts in Crete as well. That's a beautiful site. And as we're talking about that, and we said it has a long history span, Crete for thousands of years. I cannot omit talking about the Venetians because the Venetians were in Crete. They dominated Crete for about 460 years. From the beginning of the 13th century till the end of the 17th century, the Venetians were the masters of the island. And you can imagine how much, for all these years, they influenced the culture and life in Crete. And I would like to start with one of the most important Venetian sites that someone should visit, and it's an island. It's a fortress that it was built on the 16th century by the Venetians. You can see the wall. It's a fortified wall. It's a fortress that the Venetians used to make in strategic points by the water to control, of course, the sea routes of the Mediterranean Sea. And what is unique about the fortress that you can go and visit? You can take a boat. It takes about 20, 30 minutes maximum. There are 2 little ports from mainland Crete, and you can go and visit and walk and see the ruins of the amazing Venetian fortress. But it has a lot of 20th century recent history. Why? Because from the beginning of the 20th century till 1957, this fortress was a leper colony. It was the place where the lepers, people that had leprosy, the illness of leprosy, they had to go and stay there and stay isolated. So a whole community, living community of people with leprosy, they lived there in the first half of the 20th century. And this is amazing. We're talking about time that, medication was hard. A lot of sad stories, but a lot of real stories about these people. They had to stay there isolated, with the stigma. And there's an exhibition about the leprosy colony in Spinalonga. And there is a book which is written by a British writer. Her name is Victoria Hislop. She's a wonderful writer, and she wrote a book. If you want to have a literary reference about the island, it's called The Island by Victoria Hislop. She wrote like an amazing book about the time of the leprosy colony in Spinalonga. So Spinalonga, it's a must place to go and visit. It is on the northern coast, a little bit northeast of Crete. And we can see a couple of more, Venetian monuments, as we said, as the Venetians. They stayed there for so long. This is a fortress that you can find in southern Crete. You know, it's amazing. You're driving by the coastline, you see all these ruins of these fortresses because the Venetians, they want to protect by the Ottomans, that they were the main rivals of the pirates. Pirates were coming, Saracen pirates, pirates coming from, Ottoman pirates, they're coming from Northern Africa. So you can be by the Libyan Sea in southern Crete, and suddenly next to the water is this beautiful fortress that, the first construction of it went back to the 14th century. So all these amazing places that you can see and visit while you're traveling. But it's not only the fortresses, you have so many other monuments because the Venetians, they developed wonderful towns as well, like the town of Chania and Rethymno and Iraklio, that you have so many beautiful Venetian buildings, mansion houses and schools and fountains and public buildings that they're beautiful and churches. So the Venetians, they left their trace there. And this is why people go and visit the towns, mainly because of the Venetian architecture of combined to Ottoman buildings and more modern buildings of Greece. And here you can see a beginning of 17th century fountain that the Venetian built in the town of Rethymno. And you can see, how much they were influenced by the Corinthian capital, the Corinthian columns, and you can see the lion faucets where the water was coming out. That was a beautiful way to provide water, the town of Rethymno. And this is like a very famous fountain, which is in the center. It's the meeting point, let's say, of people in the town of Rethymno. And we can keep moving, and now we can go to Iraklio. Iraklio, it's the capital of Crete. And this is the coolest fortress. It is another Venetian, fortress, which is beautiful because it is built on the old port of the Venetian. So it's impressive. This is something you can do when you go to Iraklio. Iraklio, it's a more modern town. Chania and Rethymno, they have more, the traditional character of the monuments. Iraklio as well, but Iraklio is more modern town because unfortunately in 1941 it was bombarded during World War II. But still it has some very beautiful corners, as you can see, which is the coolest fortress. And you can have another panoramic view. It is a must to go and visit the old fortress, Venetian fortress in the port of Iraklio. And now we can go to Rethymno, to another town, and this is Fortezza. Fortezza in Italian, of course, the Venetian, it means fortress. They call it the Fortezza. The people of Rethymno are very happy and very proud because it stands out. It's on the top of the hill overlooking the old town of Rethymno with all this Venetian architecture. And this is a place you can visit as well. You can walk, climb a little bit up, and have panoramic views of the town. And this again was built by the Venetians in the 16th century to be able to protect themselves by their opponents, the Ottomans. And you can see in that picture, like in the evening, you can see at the background, you can see on the top the beautiful fortress, the Fortezza, that overlooks the old town of Rethymno, which is a beautiful place to be and walk around in the lanes and sit down in a taverna, have a drink in a bar by the water, by the lighthouse. It's a beautiful place to be. And of course, this is another view of the town of Rethymno. And the same with Chania. Chania, it's the most popular town that attracts most of the tourists. Of course, we know why, because of the amazing architecture and all the monuments that you have. This is, you can see the part of the port and an old mosque, a remain, because I'll talk about it. There are several monuments that they go back to the Ottoman times because the Ottomans, they came after the Venetians and they ruled the islands for several years. So you can see Chania here, the other town that it's definitely you have to go and visit. Lovely small hotels and a lot of wonderful Venetian architecture as well. It used to be the old capital of Crete before Iraklio. It was Chania. And here you get some of the lanes of Rethymno with a great architecture, a mix of architecture. Rethymno to the left and to the right, you can see the beautiful Bougainvillea. It is in the old town of Chania and some other, picturesque, very nice pictures of, coffee places where you can sit down and have your coffee and have your drinks in these beautiful little corners of the towns and villages. And here in Hanya, it's quite interesting because I took this picture, during the sunset. I saw this old gentleman, sitting on the bench. So I thought, oh, that's a really nice picture to take. And of course, here you have the lighthouse of Hanya. This lighthouse, it is a lighthouse that was built in the 1830s and 1840s, in the beginning of the 19th century. It was built by the Egyptians. The Egyptians, because the Egyptians took over by the Ottomans. They were allies for 10 years, the city of Hanya. And before they built that lighthouse, there used to be a lighthouse built by the Venetians. So the lighthouse that we see in Hanya, you can visit, takes 10 minutes walk to go around the port, have beautiful views of the port. It goes back to the 1830s, beginning of 19th century, in the beautiful port of Hanya. And then we can start seeing some, of course, the Ottoman monuments, because the Ottomans stayed for many years, till the late 19th century, about 1898. So at the end of 17th century, when the Venetians left, then the Ottomans took over for several years, till the late 19th century. So they built a lot of mosques, and you can see minarets. So these were former mosques, and some of the minarets were kept, and you can see the Nerazi Mosque, which is like in a square in Rethymno. You can see also to the right-hand side a picture, a mosque from a minaret, a remain of a mosque in Hanya. And this is wonderful. This is the mosque inside the fortezza. As I told you, on the top of the hill, there is this beautiful Venetian fortress, and you have this amazing mosque, that it used to be a mosque, and before that, it was a Venetian church dedicated to St. Nicholas. So when the Ottomans took over, they converted the Catholic Church, the Venetian church, and they made it into a mosque. And this is a beautiful mosque on the top of inside the fortezza of the hill, which is beautiful just to go and visit. And then we can see another Ottoman castle. So like you see scattered all over Crete, Venetian castles, you can see a lot of Ottoman castles as well. Some fountains. So there's this mix of architecture in all the towns of Crete between the Ottoman and the Venetian architecture, and of course more recent Greek architecture as well. And this is beautiful, what we call also the Cretan Renaissance of the time. But of course, we talked about the Venetians, the Ottomans, and I need to emphasize also the existence of beautiful churches and monasteries and chapels. The main religion of Greece is, Greek Orthodox. So we have all these beautiful churches. And I would like to recommend to our viewers, whenever you see a chapel, you go for a hike, a walk, and you see a chapel and it is open, the door is open, enter, have a look. You're always welcome into a church to see the frescoes, the iconography. Maybe you see there's a service. It might be at Easter. It might be an evening sermon. Please do go and enter a church or a monastery. You might be wandering and see a monastery and the door is open. Go inside. The monks or the nuns, they will welcome you for sure. So do that to have a real experience of the culture. And here, it's the Arcadi Monastery. So this monastery is unique. You can see the architecture. It gives you a little bit of Baroque. It gives you a little bit of, Venetian art, Cretan Renaissance. So you have a lot of different styles. It's one of the most important monasteries on the island, very wealthy monastery. At the moment, there are only a few monks, they live there. But in the 17th century, it was a very, very wealthy monastery because they used to copy manuscripts. This is what was the main occupation. So they were printing, they were writing, they were copying all this amazing manuscript. In the 19th century, they would do gold embroidery on this beautiful ecclesiastical clothing. So it was very, very active monastery on the island. It's a must. You have to see the Arcadi Monastery. And it played a role also in a revolution in 1866 against the Ottomans. A lot of self-sacrifice of local Cretans against the Ottoman yoke. And we can see more pictures of some monasteries. And what is unique about these monasteries is the fact that they have these beautiful courtyards with amazing flowers because the nuns and the monks, they take care of all these beautiful flowers. And this is another monastery which is called the Toplou Monastery. It's all the way to the east. It's like the eastern coast of Crete. And it's beautiful. You can see all of these monasteries. They're fortified because they were scared, of the pirates. So in the middle of nowhere, you can see these amazing monasteries. And this monastery, which is a beautiful monastery to visit, there they make their own wine and olive oil. So you can try the wine which is made at the monastery. Beautiful. And you can see a courtyard of the monastery and interior. And the icons, don't forget a lot of icons because in the Greek Orthodox Church we don't have statues, we have mostly icons, beautiful, very old icons. Many of them go back to the Byzantine times. Chapels all over the place. You're going to be seeing chapels everywhere. Some of them are so old and beautiful, and you can see the courtyards I was telling you. It's like a little paradise. And when you enter a monastery, sometimes, people, they're their relatives, so the monks or the nuns, they treat you with a little sweet. You feel very welcome. So it is definitely a place to visit. So all these are different monasteries, beautiful architecture. One is very different to the other. So after leaving the Greek churches and monasteries, that definitely it's a must visit as well. How about the natural wonders of Crete? Uh, we have all these beaches. This is coastline. Even if you want to avoid the crowds, you can go to small coves. There are thousands, hundreds of like coves you can go swimming in the north and south. If you go to the south, it's more dry and warm, and it's you have more rocks. And this is like a beach which is called Plakias. You can see there's a little chapel always on the top, and this is a beautiful place to go swimming in the Rethymno. And I would like just to say something as a point because we're talking about a little bit of the history, and we talked about important historical periods. This is um, the Suda Bay Cemetery, and it's quite interesting. Why? Because this is connected to World War II. And I know we have a lot of viewers, and when people they travel in Europe, they want to go and see sites that are related to the German occupation and World War II. So Crete was under the Germans from May 1941 to 1945. It was obviously a brutal occupation, and a lot of horrible things happened during the German occupation. We have the Battle of Crete in 1941, where a lot of the Allies were killed, they died, and we have these beautiful cemeteries that someone can go and visit in Crete. And there's the Suda Bay Cemetery, which is the Allies of the Commonwealth, and you have these graves of at least 1,500 young soldiers. That some of them they come from the UK, they come from South Africa, from Canada, even from India, New Zealand, Australia. And it's a beautiful place to be there overlooking the Suda Bay. You have the color of the sea, and it's very moving to be there. And also, it is a time of reflection on this peaceful place. And I recommend that if people are interested in World War II, there are many sites and places they can visit in Crete and learn many things about the Battle of Crete, for example. So now I would like to show you, most of the places that possibly you can go swimming, but also explore and go for a nice walk in different shorelines and the beach. And here, it's one of the highlights, which is called the Vai Beach, which is palm trees. It is all the way in the county of Lasithi to the eastern part, and this is where you have a lot of palm trees, which is beautiful, at least 5,000 palm trees. It is a protected area, and it's beautiful to be there also at springtime or later in the fall, as I said, without the crowds. So it's beautiful. It's also the time that birds emigrate and they come from Africa or they go back to Africa. So you can be there and hear, the sound of the birds is beautiful. This is a place that, it's magical, it's paradise. So if you happen to be there in the summer or like peak season or like late May or June, July or August, make sure you go there before 11 o'clock in the morning, before the crowds, unless, as of course we said, you travel earlier or later in the season. So these are like different angles. And from here, this is the Vibe Beach. I took this picture. There's a beautiful point, like on the top, you go up the stairs, you have a beautiful viewpoint of the Vibe Beach. You should definitely go up there and take beautiful pictures and go for a nice walk. It's beautiful. You feel like you're in a different world. And then we go to Matala Beach. Matala, everyone wants to go to Matala when they go to Crete. It's one of the most visited places. And of course, we know why, because it was the hippie community of the 60s and 70s. It was the time, late 60s, beginning of 70s, that all these young backpackers from all over the world and Western Europe, they would go to Crete and stay in these caves, beautiful caves, and they would become a part of this hippie community. So they would join other young people, and this called Matala. And we have a lot of famous people, obviously, that they stayed there, like Johnny Mitchell. She stayed there. She wrote this beautiful song called Kare that she mentions Matala. So for this generation of people, it's a beautiful beach still. It's a fantastic place. It's very, very visited by people, but it's the symbol of the hippie lifestyle. And another place, which is great, is Stavros Beach. You can see the beautiful water, and you can see this hilly, mountain at the back. And this is, how can I say, this is a beautiful place where you have one of these movie scenes of these greatest Greek films that it was shot in 1964. Obviously, all of you heard about it, Zorba the Greek. It is the time that Crete was put on the world cinematic map. And there's the last scene of the film where you have Alexis Zorbas, which is played by Anthony Quinn. He's teaching Alan Bates, the last scene of the film, how to dance the sitaki. And that symbolizes, yeah, the Greeks, they always look ahead. They always celebrate life with a dance. And you at the background, you hear the beautiful music of Zorba the Greek by Mikis Theodorakis. This is a beautiful place to be. So if you're into movies, but I'm sure you've seen this beautiful black and white film, this is the place to go and see where actually the last scene of the film, which is put, in the cinematic pantheon, which is beautiful. And we move on. We're going to go to my favorite place to go for swimming, Balos Beach. It is such a beautiful place. You have this lagoon and the open sea. And it's not so easy to get there by car because you drive and then you have to walk 30 minutes. And with the heat, it's very hard. But you can take a boat from the village of Kissamos. They do like daily excursions that goes there. I would say if you're there early or later in the season, there are not going to be many crowds. But if you're there mostly in the summer, it's not going to be only you. There are going to be hundreds of other people because so many boat tours they leave to go to Balos Beach. Ideally, if you can rent a boat of your own and go there, you might be pretty just only yourself. So this is a beautiful place. I love Balos Beach, especially when I was there last October. It was magical. And then still, Palos Beach, you can see how beautiful the water is on the lagoon. And this is Elafonisi. Elafonisi is one of the highlights. And this is, Balos was like on like the northwest point, and this is like on the southwest. Elafonisi Beach, Elafonisi is a small island of the coast that is separated with the lagoon. It's a beautiful place. It has pink sand. It has these sand lilies. It is a protected area. So when you go there, be careful. You're not allowed to pick up any flowers or any pebbles or any shells. It is how can I say, one of these places that they say, oh, one of the most beautiful beaches of the Mediterranean Sea. Many people enjoy seeing that. As I said, in the summer, expect to have more crowds. Try to be there before 11 in the morning for sure. So many places you have endless, sandy beaches and pebble beaches and coves. You can go swimming and go just for a walk and find a little taverna and have, your salad and your seafood, and it's all over the place. It's an island. It's an island. It's very mountainous, but it has all these beautiful seashore, little trips with boats. It's amazing. It's such a great, how can I say, variety of landscapes. You drive, and 1 mile after the other, the landscape changes completely from the mountains to the seashore. And now I would like to talk a little bit about these amazing gorges because although this mountain landscape is created hundreds of gorges in Crete, that some of them you can go for a walk or you can go for a hike. So when people they look for information about Crete, and especially for the hikers, walkers, they say, where should we go? And the first, answer that comes out is Samaria Gorge. So Samaria, it's the most famous gorge. Why? Because it's one of the longest in Europe. It is 10 miles. And many people, what they do, they descend, they take their route, go down to the gorge. It's 10 miles. It takes you about 6 to 8 hours. I suggest you need to be physically fit to do it. I mean, you walk down and it ends close to a seaside village, which is great. So after, being like a long day, you can go straight to the turquoise water and go for swimming and then take the boat because there's not a car there's not a road. You go to another village by ferry, and from there you can take the bus to go back or your car. It's beautiful, it's great, but before you go, ask the locals if there's any rock falling, if you can really go. And I suggest, for safety reasons, if you're not very experienced hikers, it's better to book that with a local travel agency that they can recommend you a great mountain guide.
Thank you, Apostolos. That sounds like I would say my perfect day, hiking, swimming, and then visiting a seaside tavern. It sounds wonderful. But I was wondering if you have any other hike recommendations for people who might not be quite as advanced of hikers. Is there anything for that's just a little easier or less intense that you would suggest?
There are definitely many options, and I would suggest wherever you are in Crete and stay, first of all, ask the local people because the local information is fantastic. But personally, I would say there are gorges that you don't need to walk for 6 or 8 hours. So in the same area where we have the Samaria Gorge in the Hanya area, we have other gorges like Irini, Saint Irene, and this is about 6 to 7 miles. So it might take you 3 to 4 hours to walk, and it's beautiful. It's really nice because you don't see only the landscape. You meet like ruins, old ruins, and beautiful chapels. And there's also another gorge which is called Imvros Gorge, which is even less. That can take you about 3 hours, about 5 to 6 miles. That's another. And then we have a very interesting gorge, which is on the eastern part of La City, all the way to the east, which is called the Gorge of the Dead. And they call it the Gorge of the Dead. Why? Because they have found there the Minoans, they were using some of the caves in that gorge as a burial grounds for the disease. So that makes it extremely interesting. It takes about 2 hours to walk. And when you end the walk, you end on one of the most eastern sides of Crete you can imagine, which is the ruins of another Minoan palace, which is called Zakros. So what you can do, you can hike, and then you can end the archaeological site, and then you can go straight to the stream, swimming and enjoying the sea and having a great, have lunch. And it is important. Zakros is a very important site for the Minoans. Why? This is where they had their trade base, the port, where they would go and trade goods to Egypt and the Middle East. So it has a great meaning, and definitely you can combine that and you can do it. As I said, it's better to do it organized. Never do it when the temperature is very high. Try to do it more with mild weather or super early in the morning. And of course, we can see some other beautiful pictures of other gorges and hikes. And hiking, it doesn't mean only gorges. You can hike in an olive grove. You can hike up on a hill. You can hike by the seaside, and you can take footpaths that they connect, one village, seaside village to the other. There's so many nice walks you can do in Crete. And as you've been walking and seeing all these beautiful areas, don't forget that, the climate of Crete, it's unique to grow everything. So while you're walking, you see all these wild herbs. You can see wild oregano, and you can see sage, and you can see thyme, where they make one of the best honey in Crete, something you can take as a souvenir back home, some honey of thyme from Crete. And you have what you realize, you see all these millions of olive trees. Because, of course, the Cretans, they traded olive oil, who go back to 3,500 BC. Can you imagine? There are about 30 million olive trees in Crete. It's about the one quarter of the whole farmland, and we have olive trees in Crete that the scientists say we have some of the oldest olive trees you can encounter in Greece. We're talking about 2,000 to 4,000-year-old olive trees that they still produce olives. It's amazing. You see these huge tree trunks that great. And of course, the Cretan cuisine, it's one of the most famous in the world. It's been recognized, has to do with the Mediterranean nutrition, the Mediterranean diet, and not only the olive groves, you have a lot of vineyards. So I suggest, well, where you're there, first of all, you can visit an olive oil mill, a new one, a more older one, a more ancient one. It's beautiful, all these traces of the olive oil culture. And you can visit also a nice vineyard. It can be something bigger, something smaller, more family. You can do some wine tasting. And also in the vineyards, from the wine, whatever it's left after you press the grapes and you take the must out, whatever it's left, after you distill it, you have this transparent liquor that we call it psychoudia, like raki. It's like similar to grappa, I would say. And it's something that always people offer you at the end of a meal in a taverna. So this is another drink that comes, from the grapes in Crete. And you can try and you can see the vineyards. And also, we can see bananas. What bananas are happening here? You wouldn't think that, in Greece would grow bananas, but because of the climate, it can be very warm. It's the only place in Greece where they grow bananas, avocados, so you can have more exotic fruit. And this is beautiful because you can have amazing vegetables and fruit and obviously meat. The people, you have a diet if you're a vegan, vegetarian, but also it has great meat. And you can see thousands of goats grazing free around. And that's the beauty about traveling in Crete. Wherever you go, you're going to encounter, there's going to be a goat watching you. So there are going to be sheep and goats everywhere. So they eat a lot of goat and lamb. They do, while they say slow cooking, but also they do great stew with greens, with wild greens. We call it horta. So there is great quality of meat because all these animals are free grazing. So it's like amazing organic meat. And snails. Snails, you wouldn't expect that, but snails, it's one of these mezedes, it's one of these delicacy of the Cretans. It's called chochli, and they fry them with olive oil and some rosemary and a little vinegar, and also they cook them with fresh tomato sauce and onions. So it is a delicacy, snails in Crete as well. And of course, fruit and vegetables, so many. You can imagine now cucumbers and tomatoes and eggplant and zucchini and all the greens and fennel, wild fennel and bulbs and everything you can imagine comes from there. And this is typical dakos. Dakos, what it is, it's the Cretan salad. So you have this bread rusk, like hard bread from barley or carb, and they put fresh tomato on the top with olive oil. So the olive oil melts, makes softer, with a little watery, the rusk and some capers. And then you have, of course, some cheese. And there are different types of cheese in Crete, a lot of white cheese. We have a cheese called mizithra, which is a creamy white cheese. It can be goat, sheep, or mixed. And there's a sour mizithra as well. So they make it the sour version. And there's anthotiro, which is another creamy cheese, very nice. And there is graviera, which is a hard cheese. It sometimes has this nutty flavor, which is beautiful. So a lot of different types of cheese. And also we have staka in Crete. Staka is quite interesting because staka, it's like a buttery cream that comes out from boiled boiled milk by the goats, and it's great because they put that on on rice and they make fantastic recipes. So you can see here different types of salads with nuts and octopus, and you can see I know you're getting hungry because you're in the evening, in North America, but you have all these beautiful dishes and all the pictures that you see of they're taken by myself. They're taken while I'm on tour. I take this picture, but the problem is I don't have so many pictures because when I put the food on the table, the travelers they attack on the food, so I don't have time to take pictures. So whatever I take in, it takes me only a couple of seconds to take the pictures because everyone wants to enjoy the food. So I'm very happy that you're not going to be disappointed with food. You can see the fried calamari and of course seafood, a lot of seafood, not only meat. You can see the real octopus. You can see the sardines. And you can see the dolmadakia, the vine leaves wrapped with rice, sometimes with meat, sometimes with not, with a little fresh yogurt. And you can see the risotto. They do different types of risotto with seafood. A great variety of foods, some meat. Also, they have some pork if you like eating pork. And they have this apaki. It's a special pork they do, which is smoked preserved in vinegar as well, which is beautiful. There's such a great variety of food. And of course, here you have the stuffed zucchini flowers. Like that's a great thing to eat with a little yogurt. Beautiful and a lot of different dishes. And oh, this is great. This is the Sfakiani pita. This is the pita they made in the area of Sfakia in Crete. And what it is flour that you make a pie. Pie in Crete, in Greece, we call it pita, and it's flour with sour mizithra cheese, sour cheese. I was telling you this white creamy cheese and fresh honey on the top. So it makes such a great fine balance. You can imagine the sourness of the cheese with the sweetness of the honey. And here you can see some men in a bakery. They make some baklava, some Greek baklava. So you can see, you can visit so many nice bakeries in Greece and Crete and see all the products. And yeah, and what I would like to say is always there's going to be a little taverna next to the waves, next to the sea, where you can be there and enjoy your Greek food, like relaxing and with a good company. You will definitely not be disappointed with the Cretan food. And you can leave. You're going to leave your tour or your adventure by gaining a couple of pounds, but it's fine. You can forgive yourself for doing that.
Oh, well, that. Oh, here we go. Do you have one more slide to share, Apostolos?
Yeah, what I would like to say, you cannot have Crete without music. Music and Crete, they go together. The Cretans celebrate life. They love music. They express themselves through dancing and through poems and rhymes and songs. So I wanted to put, the last picture on the slide. A friend of mine that he's a shepherd up in the mountains, and he's staying there in his little hut with his goats and his little dog. And when he wants just to relax and enjoy the moment from this beautiful place where he is, he's playing the flute and the sunset of Crete. So for me, Crete means a lot with the music.
And you actually shared with me a video that you took of some musicians in Crete, Apostolos. So I think we should close things out with
Definitely.
a little treat from for our viewers.
Διώχνει μακριά το στεράγαμο, το βλέμμα ή το δικό σου. Άιντε σαμάναμα, το βλέμμα ή το δικό σου.
So what did we just watch, Apostolos? What can you tell us about that performance?
Okay, we saw a little bit of the Cretan music tradition. First of all, this is how people enjoy themselves in Crete. And if you have the two main instruments, the Cretan instrument, which is the lira, the lyra, and the lauto, the lute, you can have a whole festival, a whole celebration. So these two gentlemen musicians and singers, they play a sirto. It's a particular song for dancing where people dance in a circular way. And this is beautiful. It's a traditional song. And I really like the words of the songs because there's so many love songs. And this song talks about longing the other person that you haven't seen for a long time. When, couples are separated and you're looking forward to see, the person you're in love to. And there's these beautiful words that, they say that, a glance of yours makes my bad moments going away when I just see your face, and your smile makes me have hope for life. And I really like these songs that really celebrate and they show the meaning of life of Christ. So this is the way for the Cretans, and maybe there is a chance you're going to have this encounter if you go to a little taverna and people are in a great mood. The local people, they take out the instrument and they start playing, and the whole community celebrates. So you don't need to have huge microphones and, concerts. Just by the local people, you can really enjoy a genuine Cretan music moment.
That's amazing. So it's sometimes just a spontaneous thing. You just might get lucky when you're at a seaside tavern and
Definitely, definitely. I mean, that can happen. This is the way people do. It's a part of their entertainment, and everything happens on a spur of the moment. And I love this because I love surprises. I love when I go to a place and something like that happens, and that makes traveling obviously much more interesting and rewarding.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for that beautiful presentation, Apostolos. It was fabulous, and I know I am just dying to go to Crete now. And we do have some questions for you that we will get to in a moment. But before we do so, I have a quick word from our sponsor. So, the sponsor this evening is the Rick Steves Greece Guidebook. We actually, until one edition ago, this was the Athens and the Peloponnese guidebook, but we have recently added some more destinations. We've expanded our coverage, and so we officially have a Greece guidebook. It's very exciting. And Ben and our colleague Colleen, they actually did a wonderful presentation on some of the destinations that are now included in the Greece guidebook, and you should be able to find a link to that in the chat. We do cover some islands in this Greece book. We don't cover Crete yet, but I have just gotten word that Crete coverage may be on the way. So stay tuned, folks. You heard it here first. Um, so yeah, and on that note, Apostolos, I have a couple questions for you before we close out the show. And
Wonderful.
so I will start things off with asking, what is your favorite food when you go to Crete? What do you always look forward to every time you return?
Well, every time I go, personally, I really like the dolmadakia. They're wrapped vine leaves with the herbs and the rice. Sometimes they put meat on it, like beef. So every time I go, every day in a different taverna, I always order dolmadakia. I mean, that's not the only thing that I eat because we take, hundreds of different plates with my friends and my travelers. But it's something I really like because in every place they make it in a different way. But of course, I like the different type of cheese and fresh vegetables that all the places. And something I like as well is rabbit. I like rabbit as well because they make it there in a very nice white sauce and like lemony sauce. So it's a local delicacy. So this is something I really enjoy having when I'm in Crete, and I cannot find it in other places.
Oh, wonderful. And you better get yourself a plate quickly, or else somebody else might polish off the dolmadakia before you can get to it. So you got to race to get your serving. Okay, wonderful. Well, um, we had several people wondering actually how you would recommend getting from the mainland in Greece to Crete? Would you recommend flying? Are there any ferries that people could take?
There are ferries. Usually they're night ferries, so you leave like in the evening and you arrive very early in the morning with the ferry. I would fly because flying takes no more than an hour, like 45 minutes from Athens to Crete. There are two main airports in the city of Chania, the capital. It's just a couple of miles outside, and also from in Chania. Both of them are international. There are like a lot of flights from Athens every day, at least 10 flights, but you can fly also through other European cities. And next year, there's going to be a new international airport opening, which is going to be out of the city of Iraklios. So get ready. They say it's going to open in 2027. It's going to be a huge airport. It's a great investment, for the island. There's a third airport also on the east in Sitia, which is in the city. It's smaller, but there are flights also to Sitia. So pretty much you can have access to the island. I would fly. It's so easy. There's so many flights. So even if you come from the US, there's so many connections. So if you miss your flight, you're going to take the next one. It's not like there are two flights per day. You can have 10, 12 flights. So from the morning till night, that's the best way to do it.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's see. Okay, we have Linda, who, and you're going to like this, she is going to Crete for 10 to 14 days, um, I believe this year. And she is wondering if you would recommend picking a couple of home bases, maybe two or three destinations to really settle into, and then doing day trips from those points, or if you recommend changing locations every 1 to 2 days.
I would say if you stay for 10 days, 10, 12 days, change every 2, 3 days. You can
Hmm.
stay in Iraklio, in Chania, in Erethymno, the main towns. So you can do side trips from there. Now, if you want to spend one night in a village, maybe in southern Crete, like southern west, so to avoid more miles driving, you can do that as well. But I think most of the people, what they do, they stay in the main town, in a central located hotel. They have a car and they go there and they do their day trips and they come back in the evening. I would say stay in the main towns because there's so many things to see also in the main towns. So when you come back in the evening, you're gonna have a nice dinner, by the water. You can explore. There might be a festival, so there might be many things to do in town themselves.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I will ask you just two more questions since we're running out of time. But let's see here. Yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us, just to close things out, what your wow moment is from Crete. I know since you are a Rick Steves guide, you might be familiar with how we always ask our tour members what their wow moment was after they go on tour with us. So I was wondering if you have one memory in particular that really sticks out as being a really special moment from exploring Crete.
I think one of the fine moments when I'm driving and I'm like up in a mountain and I start descending, going beautiful coves of the big blue of the sea with the golden grass on the eastern part of Crete. This is like it's amazing. It just makes me feel so beautifully and feeling, the breeze in the air, the fresh air with this wonderful landscape, and this dryness maybe. I feel like I'm in another world, although that I come from Greece. It seems that you're in another continent. So I have this feeling, although I know I'm in Greece, I have this feeling that I might not be in Greece. How can I express it? It's this beautiful, beautiful feeling.
Ah, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Apostolos, for this wonderful virtual tour of Crete. It is just looks like a magical place, so thank you so much. And before we say goodnight, I was wondering if you could tell us what is up next for you this year.
Okay, up next, I mean, we have February coming up. So February for me, it's going to be not only a relaxation month before I begin my tours in March, it's preparation time because I'm starting beginning of March with a tour with Rick Steves, which is Athens and the heart of Greece. We're going to the Peloponnesus. So I'm looking forward to the new season with Rick Steves, and also for my tours that are coming up later in spring. My Epirus tour, my Crete tour, which is wonderful. So I'm trying to take care, of all the logistics in this tour. So I have a whole month to do that. And if anyone is interested, for 2026, there are only very, very few places left for my tours in the Northwest, in Epirus, and in Crete. And my dates for 2027 for Crete and Epirus are out. So I'm working with all of that, and I'm looking forward, of course, starting with Rick Steves again, and I'm leading the first tour of Athens and the heart of Greece in the beginning of March. So I'm very, very happy that I'm gonna open the season with Rick Steves.
Next week, we will have Gabe and Lale back on Monday Night Travel to cover Istanbul and Turkish delights. So be sure to tune in for that. And until next time, happy travels. Ben, what you doing there?
I typed up my favorite places in Rome and I'm posting them in the Roman forum to help other travelers. My favorite pizzeria is criminally underrated.
Ben, I think your recommendations would be a lot more helpful if you posted them in the Rick Steves Travel Forum instead.
The what?
The Rick Steves Travel Forum. It's an online forum at ricksteves.com where millions of travelers share tips from their trips.
That does sound convenient.
Plus, you should probably brush up on Rick's Italy for Food Lovers show, because this is not the best pizzeria in Rome.
Tu, Emily?